We have also Christophe Lepitre, who is the CEO of IZNES. So, Christophe, IZNES in few words.
Thank you, Stephanie. Alors, IZNES is the first blockchain-based marketplace for funds in continental Europe. There is one in UK, actually. It's been developed by a community of asset managers, for asset managers and their clients. It's been in production since March last year. And the fact is, today investing in funds is still quite expensive, long and complex, and it shouldn't be. So we're working on that.
Then we have Yves-Laurent Kayan, who is the CEO of Coinplus, and you're also based in Luxembourg.
Correct. Coinplus is a Luxembourgish startup, and we went to Luxembourg for a specific purpose. We can talk about that later, about regulation. Then we choose to have another way to attack the market. We have found a way to generate differently than the standard way, the private key. So in all the blockchain industry and in some of the cyber security space, you need private key linked to elliptic curve. This is your password. And in the blockchain industry, what is different, what we are offering the market, is the way to handle physical support, which means you own yourself, your own proof of key, your own Bitcoin, your own token, and this is a global patent pending process-based solution. It's very easy to understand. There is a...
So 30-second pitch, huh?
30. So we are in production, we are live, and we are going B2B. So we can address any kind of company who wants to address the mass market to offer specific personalized cards or bars on which they can handle themselves the private key, so to say the Bitcoin or the token. It's easier to understand for the mainstream.
Thank you. And then Alberto Sanchez from Spain with Inbonis. 30-second pitch. You've done it. You take the challenge.
Okay, sure. Inbonis Rating is a credit rating agency, the first one in Europe, registered by ESMA, which is our regulator, is the European Securities and Market Authority. We're the first one to address SME rating. We're opening this sector in which Moody's and Standard & Poor's hasn't yet been addressed, so this is what we do. And we mainly work with tier 1 investors, such as the European Investment Fund, leading sponsor Arkea, who uses our credit opinion to make investment decisions.
Thank you. So feel free to ask questions. I mean, it needs to be a discussion between you and our fantastic panelists. So 4 entrepreneurs on stage. Most of you have been before in a comfortable situation within a corporation or established company. So why, Viktorija, have you decided to become an entrepreneur? What was the reason to jump into this journey?
I'm an entrepreneur more than maybe 7 years. It's not my first company, it is 4th. My first startup was also tech startup. It's like book a table, open table 10 years ago, but it was too early. And you know, I was working only in 2 works, and I understood that it's not enough space for my ideas, and I want to feel free. And now I understand that I pay for my free life because I have to work a lot, 24 hours a day.
So we all come from the same journey. You want to be free. You say, one day I become an entrepreneur, I'm going to be free. But then you have to struggle. So
yeah, you have to work 24 hours, 7 days a week.
So first, a wake-up call when you're an entrepreneur, it's an hard work. So you can see all the great news on the superstar entrepreneur raising tons of money. But how is it to be struggling, when you start your business? So Yves-Laurent, what is your experience as a founder? Has it been a very smooth journey when it comes to raising money? Or?
So 6 years ago, talking about Bitcoin was bizarre. So coming from France, we went to Luxembourg, and it was a blockchain positive space there. About raising money, it was not in Luxembourg that we raised money first, and we always been raising money like a ramping up strategy. Small monies and smart money just to go through some milestones, and then trying to deliver something. Then become another stage maybe this year.
So you start, you have to survive at the beginning. Alberto, you're a co-founder, so it means that you have a co-founder. How is it to have a co-founder? I mean, is it better to start alone, to be with someone? What is your experience in that perspective? Are you still in love with your co-founder?
Yes, pretty much. Yeah, I think it's better to be with a team from the beginning, and when you are ready to sacrifice as much as it was mentioned, is because you intend to make something that is good, that you believe is good for yourself, for society, and also that there is obviously an opportunity, an unresolved problem, and the choice of the co-founders is key. Basically, my experience is based on trust, and is based on alignment on what you try to achieve. Because basically purpose is what is going to keep people aligned and on the long run on the company.
And prior to be yourself a founder, you invested. I mean, you were at Gravitation, so you know what it is to select the right project.
Yeah, and actually the team of co-founders or founders is a key asset for any company. So seeing this determination and the real alignment between what a person wants to do in their life and the business, for me, was, as an investor, it was a key criteria anyhow.
Christophe, you've been starting your company in I would say, a situation where you have already backers and sustainability behind you. Is it an advantage or a risk?
Probably both, I would say. That's right, the situation is different because it has been founded by a community of asset managers who designed the solution, financed the development for their needs and the needs of the rest of the market. So it's probably a different story. But in the long run, the question is you have to partner with people who really understand client needs. So maybe that could be the clients themselves. That's this idea of financing an infrastructure by the users.
So you already have the investors and the user. So it's clearly an advantage when you start. Maybe it's more complicated if you want to exit. This is another story in some years. Yves-Laurent, Luxembourg, you're French and you've been moving to Luxembourg. Correct. I mean, why? I mean, is it critical, the place where you locate your business in the fintech industry?
Yeah, it's critical because 6 years ago we were looking at regulation, and Luxembourg was one of the unique places in Europe to give some regulation that was accepted by institutional. There were some other places linked to gambling, such as Gibraltar or Isle of Man or something like that. But Luxembourg was very easy to go and very smart place to start something in the blockchain industry. It turns out that now we are not going to be regulated because the product we have is not regulated so far. So we are stick there and we are now trying to expand, but we are located there. We are still there with a lot of smart ecosystem there and a trust ecosystem. So we are happy to be there, but we are going to expand externally.
So big sacrifice to move country and to select another place where you live. No, you were before in Luxembourg?
No, but I moved my family 4 years ago, and actually I had a co-founder initially that stepped down in 2018, and he's still there because he went back as a simple shareholder, standard shareholder, but he didn't move his family. So the choice is to choose a location where you can have an advantage, competitive advantage about something in the fintech industry, it can be the regulation. And in Luxembourg, they are very fintech positive.
Viktorija, when you look at your entrepreneurial journey, what is your, what it takes to become an entrepreneur? Can everybody become an entrepreneur, or are you per nature an entrepreneur?
Very good question. To be honest, I think that you are born like an entrepreneur. Just you have more energy than others, you have more patience than others, because to create is one thing, but to maintain the business, it's the hardest thing. So yeah, I think you have to have some competences, leadership, and to be very brave.
Yeah, and starting and being resilient is something very hard. So we often speak about the super successful entrepreneurs, but do you pay attention, Alberto, to your work-life balance? Because often we see that entrepreneurs are super warrior, hero, that they can work 24 hours without stopping. I mean, how do you balance your life?
Well, I have 3 kids, I have friends, I have a family, and I have a business. And I work maybe more than an employee, but I'm happier because I like what I do, and I have a vision, and I have a real impact. I believe I do. So I think that's not a. I don't think this should be an argument not to be an entrepreneur. It's basically you find your own balance by doing what you want to do and aligning with the impact you want to have in your life with what you actually do. So I think it's very healthy.
So you align with what you want to do. So super important. I mean, and it helps a lot to counterbalance the downs of being an entrepreneur. When you look, Christophe, at your experience as an entrepreneur, you used to be in a very comfortable environment. I mean, AD and OFI management, so a lot of, comfort. What is your take? I mean, when you look at your experience, what would you have done differently? I mean, living this comfortable world, or which advice would you give to the people in the room? By the way, who is an entrepreneur here? Okay, and who is thinking of becoming an entrepreneur in the fintech space? Okay, no vocation.
You should tell Laurent this.
Why? I mean, you should raise your hands. No more vacation for entrepreneurs? Okay, so Christophe, how did you jump?
Well, I'm not sure I'm a born entrepreneur, if that exists. I think maybe it's a period of life. It's a question of desire. I would say like the breast. It's a question of risk appetite. And it's probably a question of vision. So if something is clear in your mind, I mean, you should do it. Now, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of balance between my job and my private life, I think I should remain silent on that.
So, when you look, Yves-Laurent, at your experience with your founders and the story of Coinplus, I mean, has the cash been an issue for you in your relation with your founders? How do you manage the cash constraint or the cash needs as a founder? I mean, as for me, as a founder, this is the worst experience I had since when I used to be in a big corporation, I mean, it was easy. At the end of the month, you paid, you have the money to pay your team members. But as a founder, cash is king.
It depends on the maturity of your project. If you find the way to commercialize it or not, we have made a pivot ourselves. So we have developed something else prior to what we are selling now. So it was another time, and there were like 6 to 12 months cash ahead of us. And now that we have pivot, now that we have made like 2 or 3 years of R&D, then we are now struggling with this cash, but now we got something that is unique. We got our USP, we got our markets. So it's quite difficulty is in one hand, but on the other hand, you got something that is relevant for the market. So it can be a balance about the cash wall versus the cash need.
Viktorija, is it easy how many team members do you have? I mean,
21.
21. So is it to recruit at start?
Yeah, it was very, very hard because fintech, real estate, it combines three competences: finance, real estate knowledges, and technology. So that was very, very hard. For example, to find IT developers, it took to create all team 6 months. To find a risk assessment manager also took, I don't know, 3 or 4 months. That was really, really hard to find because it's very specific and new market, fintech.
Christophe, how many team members do you have today?
8.
8. And they're coming from the entrepreneurial world, or they are more from the asset management and
Half.
half. So values and how do you inspire your team members in terms of it's a move for half of them being in small startups. How do you motivate them?
I mean, definitely we sharing the same vision, and otherwise the main players are invited to invest in the company. So we have some shareholders which are large asset managers, and we've got the main participants of the team who are already also shareholders of the company at the same time. So that makes a mix, interesting board between both of the two.
So you recommend to have this mixed culture in a company?
I'm not sure of that. It's part of the history of my company.
Mm-hmm. Alberto, you are an entrepreneur in Spain. Spain is not known to be full of cash for the early stage company. How have you been starting to bootstrapping or finding some investors?
Well, we had the management team had some financial capacity, and also we formed a real close club of friends, such as my former boss, Shalbek Bede, at the beginning. So with that, and then the markets, clients. So we have pretty much bootstrap. Our main investment has been filing for the license as a credit rating agency, who's been a kind of 2.5 year period. And we had a team of 8 people dedicated to get the registration. It requires skills in terms of modeling, in terms of assessment, technology, regulatory. So we've been able to finance it with our equity and clients. We've been working with leading institutional institutions such as the Inter-American Development Bank.
And among you, who is bootstrap here? Bootstrap? No? You're the only one? Yes.
Well, bootstrap with some help, but yeah, bootstrap.
And who is cash flow positive today?
Every other month, I would say.
Okay, who is thinking of...
Is it relevant to be cash flow positive?
Yes.
Yes, for me it's freedom. Being cash flow positive, this is the advice I give to all my entrepreneurs. You can dream of the big fundraise, but at some point, if you have cash, you have le champ des possibles, as we say in French. So...
Correct.
No? Okay.
Soon.
It's a debate, but I always think that at some point you need to be cash flow positive just to be free and to have the freedom to say, oh, I scale, I stay like this, I raise money, but then I'm free because I have no pressure from cash.
Correct.
So, yeah. When we look at the European ecosystem for fintech, I mean, there's country where there's plenty of money available from the public states. Other when it's harder. I would say that Luxembourg, you have supports. France, Luxembourg, you have supports. Spain, no money. Lithuania, no money. So is it an advantage again to be supported by the government or?
If I may, I think the CEO's job is not to raise funds. It's to find a place in the world where it can operate a profitable business. So I think it's even an advantage not to have a very developed VC or public funding type of market.
This is what I think, Matt.
Same as my experience. I was never thinking to raise money from the venture capital. We were investing our own money from other businesses because we saw an opportunity in this innovative alternative financing business. But when different funds, not only Lithuanian, started to suggest maybe they would like to know more about us, to invest to our international expansion, I was thinking, why not? So I'm just in the zero position in this journey. So for me, it's very new experience. And today was my first pitch ever I did.
Yeah, you've done it pretty well, I would say.
Thank you.
No, I say it was awesome. So if you look, Christophe, at your experience as a founder now, what is your worst experience with your new company? Is there and your best memory?
Well, best memory by far is the day when I decided to go full-time for IZNES and stop the rest of it. And no really bad memories. We had some difficult times in the last 9 months. By the way, we don't have any public money so far. We'd love to, anybody in the room. But we don't have. But we found some support from the regulators in France and in Luxembourg. So very friendly and interesting support from regulation bodies. As far as DLTs are concerned, blockchain is concerned, people very interested by that kind of project, but not public money so far.
I do think that when you do a fintech company, you have to play with corporate partners in one hand and with regulation so as to be regulated, but in a clever way. It's clearly the advantage. Alberto, in your experience as a founder, what have you been suffering the most? If you look at the downs of an entrepreneur, any moment where you say, okay, I give up?
No, never give up. I think this is the kind of, you have your source of energy is never gonna be extinguished. But obviously there are, personally with the, in the filing process to becoming a credit rating agency, that was very difficult because you're used in normal life to negotiate. But actually, I couldn't realize that with a regulator, you don't negotiate. You just need to try to understand and accept. That was difficult for me, but that's not the worst moment. For me, the worst moment always is when you lose or not, you're not able to retain talent. That's kind of, for me, you invest in people, but then sometimes, they move into larger organizations, better paid, whatever. So that's for me the big defeat.
Yeah, talent management, talent recruitment, talent loyalty is something hard in your space. Viktorija, I guess that in Lithuania you have plenty of room for recruitment. I mean, is it hard to find the talents today in Lithuania?
Yes, it is. It's very hard to find, exactly in tech sector, because there are a lot of tech companies, banks are working in our country, and they are taking all talents, and sometimes they are overpaid. So, for example, to find IT developer was, oh my God, very hard. Yeah, because they are overpaid and they need a lot of things, a lot of fun at the work. So. Yeah,
I mean, it's often the case with. I would thought that in Lithuania, you now that you with your company you become pretty bankable. I mean, you had the power to attract people.
Yes, we are working with employer branding, with marketing, not only to customers acquisition, but about like company employer branding. Yeah, that to attract the people to work in my company. So I'm very happy when I sometimes get an emails in the LinkedIn or direct in my email that they would like to work in my company because they like what we are doing. So it's very important. But the most important thing also the values. So we need to talk about that.
And Luxembourg is often very attractive for tech companies. I mean, we have 5 here. 2 are in between Luxembourg and France. Or I started the beginning at Luxembourg. For me, it was a trauma. So the worst idea ever. I mean, sorry for the Luxembourgian friends, but it's super attractive. But then you pay a lot for everything. So would you restart your business in Luxembourg, Yves-Laurent, or staying in France? Sorry for the non-French, but
Maybe
come to France.
maybe in Luxembourg, because we have a process that imply a trusted partner. So you can find it in Paris as well, but it's easier to make relationship and business relationship in Luxembourg. You mentioned the public or the ecosystem in Luxembourg is very fast. You can have access to all kind of people, and now we are joining the Loft, which is like the Luxembourg house of startup, and it will be more easier. So just to say about France or Luxembourg, if I have to restart this same company, it will be Luxembourg.
You would do Luxembourg. If I had an advice for you, do your business where you like to live, because you're going to spend many hours in your business, so you have to live the place.
Yeah, it's safe place to live as well.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, when it's comfortable. Yeah. You're in between Paris and Luxembourg. Yeah.
Right, but as you may know in the room, when you work in the fund industry or as a servicer to the fund industry, you have to be in Luxembourg. Yeah. And not only in Luxembourg, but you have to be in Ireland too. Mm-hmm. And maybe in Germany. Because if you add those 4 jurisdictions, you come to the fact that you've got 84% of the EU 27 market. So you have to be in those 4 countries at one point. Yeah. So we were born in France. Next step, we created a branch in Luxembourg 2 months ago, and next step is going to be Ireland. We have to.
Yeah. So you have business that is going to be spread across several locations, which means that you need to have a very strong values and brand to have a small team but located with the same values.
Right. Right.
And Alberto, being a successful fintech in Spain is possible, or you need to be in Spain, in UK, or in another country now that UK is no more part of Europe?
Well, you need to be locally. Actually, I spend my time between Paris and Madrid. We can operate in any country in Europe, 27, with our registration as credit rating agency. But we're operating today in France and Spain, and you need to create this business relationship at the local level. So I'm basically back and forth. We have a team. We have an affiliate in Paris now, because some French clients wants to be invoiced by French organizations. So we needed to set up an affiliate. So it has to be local.
Global and local. But don't overestimate the cost structure to be in few countries. I mean, which always is a.
But one country is okay. We are going to open something in France, and it's the first step to expand. So you can imagine just opening one country.
Yeah, but often as an entrepreneur, I don't know how you say it, but managing your time across multiple locations is super hard. Are you across multiple locations, Viktorija?
No, at the moment, no.
And how do you see the future?
I see that I have to find a way to manage. But Lithuania market is very small, and it's a scale business, so we need to go to the other countries. But I need to find some partners in every country, like a country managers. But of course, my work will be flying, yeah.
Yeah, so big change in life if you start to be traveling. How much have you raised?
Totally 1.3.
661,000 euros.
Okay, super efficient.
6 million.
6 million.
2 million.
2 million. Okay, so we have pretty reasonable fundraise company. What was your experience in the fundraise? So you bootstrap mostly with friends. You've done it at the beginning, so none of you yet have experienced what it is to do a big fundraise or complicated fundraise. You're going.
Yes, I'm going, but I don't have experience, so I'm just starting to understand that market of the raising money from the funds and investors.
Would you advise on entrepreneurs to raise money? No, the answer is not for Alberto. You've been.
Well, I think when you create a business, you have a very long-term vision, and how the industry is structured today, many venture capital funds, they have kind of shorter terms, like 3-4 year exit timing. So it can create, especially when you're not sure about your business model at the beginning, it can create some disalignment between the business and the shareholder. So obviously it can give you speed, pace, but it also increases your risk profile when they push you too hard for growth before you have a grasp on your market. So maybe it's a good idea when you have a product in the market working and you need cash for growth, and you know how this cash is going to transform into free cash flow. But at the beginning, like kind of the seed market, honestly, it depends the type of founder you are. But if I think no one can make a really meaningful thing in less than 10 years.
What makes you the most happy as an entrepreneur, or the happiest, sorry for that mistake? What makes you happy as an entrepreneur?
Freedom.
Freedom?
When somebody is happy to see my product and he will use it.
Product fit, yeah. Product customer fit.
Probably when I managed to convince some new people, new talents to join the project and understand the vision.
Me too. Getting talent is what really gets me high.
Yeah.
But also seeing that there is a value to what you do. People do value. You create something that is positive.
And if you were to restart, would you do same business, or would you try to find something with more impact, more, tech for good, or would you stay in the same fintech, transactional industry? Maybe Viktorija, you do something that has...
I think that I'm on my way. So I am, I'm not trying to find something. If I decided, I will do this. And now I think that I am on the right way, on my way, in very, very perspective niche of the business.
I don't know.
I carefully try to avoid that kind of question.
Why?
And you?
Yeah, I would do the same. I started 5 years ago with one idea, that there is dysfunction in the market as to how SMEs creditworthiness is assessed. Credit rating agencies not covering the segment. SME scoring as is not really trusted to make significant investment decisions, so there is a gap. And we did pivot at the beginning. We started as a balance sheet lender to build our models, but we didn't see a real impact, nor the numbers didn't add up. So 6 months later, we started to draw the roadmap to becoming a credit rating agency. So I would do the same, because I think it's bringing value to society. So.
Excellent. So I guess we cover most of the topic I wanted to cover, but I'm happy to get some questions from the floor. Yes.
We haven't heard many downs in your experience, so I would like to see if you had any other downs than the ones you mentioned, and how you overcame these downs.
Okay, I can, sometimes days are very happy, sometimes are sad. For example, few months ago, I got a letter from the Central Bank of Lithuania that we do something wrong and we need to change, and they want to close us, for example. So we need to talk with them. At the same day, we have attack from the competitors and the biggest media in our country. So yeah, one day are very happy, another one is difficult, but everything is going. So the dogs bark, so, and you are going on, keep going. So yeah.
Yeah, when you are talking with your co-founder, like for several months, and then you understand that he got some other issue to address than the business, then it's better to still have a good relationship with him, so to let him step down. It was one of the downs of Coinplus, but the downs is not the way that we did that. It was the perception of the community seeing that the co-founder stepped down. And as the product was already ready, they didn't understand that it was for other reasons than the business reasons. So when I talked to the people and I said my co-founder came back as a standard shareholder, they say, how? How can you do that? I say, you just stepped down for other reasons. It was like one of the downs.
So people issue, I mean, all about human relation at the end of the day.
Perception of third part or other people.
I would like to add my situation. When I was in 2012, I had my first company, real estate agency. I was working for 1 year, for example, 20, 14, 16 hours per day, and after that, I just get to the hospital for 1 month. So I understood that what does it mean work and life balance. So of course I was burned. Yeah.
I think we often forget that the burnout of entrepreneurs is something happening a lot.
Right. Just to answer your question, we had some difficult times last year. Actually, we had a problem, financial crisis, because our main shareholder and technology provider went into administration for a while. So it was quite a difficult time, but in the end, we bought back its stake into the company. We bought back the IP of the platform. We hired the product manager, and now we are stronger than before. So it was a hard time, but now it's better.
For me, in order of importance, it was the first time we filed to ESMA to becoming a credit rating agency, and we weren't complete. That was a big down, and then we filed a second time. We weren't complete. That was another big down, and then a third time, and then finally at the fourth time we got it. So this is what you do when you got a down.
Yeah,
go back.
A driving license.
Clearly, the regulation, I mean, in some country can be very efficient. I mean, and the regulation is super professional if we compare to UK, or I mean, FCA is really business driven, and it's something that if some of you are coming from regulators, I mean, super important to understand that in front of you, you have entrepreneurs with timing constraint, and cash is time, and time is important. So the regulation impact on business, I mean, is something also that, and as an entrepreneur, I guess that this is terrible because you have no lever on it.
No, that's very stressful.
Well, I think we've covered the ups and the downs of being an entrepreneur. It's a nice journey to be an entrepreneur, but if something you have to get and remember is that it needs optimism and resilience. But the journey is worth it. Thank you, and thank you all.